the chapter that he does on the racism and the science of Egyptology, to show that the Egyptology work was influenced by the fact that these nations that were doing Egyptology were stealing bodies and stealing lands from African people. So we can never forget that the academic discipline is colored by its time.
Okay.
Now, there are 11 ways. I've been saying, I've been emphasizing, and that's part of the purpose of this whole program, is to reclaim for Africa and for African people the Kemetic civilization. And there are 11 ways that one of our great scholars has shown that you can answer the question that people have, you know, how do we know, you know, that these were really native black African people? So I call this 11 categories of converging evidence showing that ancient Kemet was native black African. This is very important because you can't just say that they were black. You have to know what is the evidence for it. And so that's our purpose now. And it falls into these 11 categories. Now I'll run through them briefly. Evidence from physical anthropology. This is Cheikh Anta Diop's first point, that if you measure the skulls from graveyards before the nation of Kemet, and that population didn't change after Kemet got started, that the skulls in terms of their length, width, face, nasal length, cephalic index, and so forth, that what you find is that those were black people. In other words, that's, some people would argue that they were a mixed group, but then you would have to, if you use that criteria, you know, those criteria, then you would have to say that most African Americans are not black people. You know, but in other words, because there will be a range of skull shapes, a range, maybe if you could see the skin color, which you can't, there would be a range of skin color, changes in facial angle and things like that. So there would not be what they call the true Negro, you know, whatever that's supposed to be. Right. But Cheikh Anta Diop went through that evidence quite well, and it's reported in his article, The Origin of the Ancient Egyptians, and that's a very important article for people to get. It's found in the book Great African Thinkers in the Journal of African Civilization. The second point is that if you look at the Kemetic images, and that's what I've been showing, the painting of Nefertari, the painting of the carving of Amenhotep, the carving of Amenemhet, the carving of Zoser, pre-dynastic and early dynastic, when you look at the natives, if they're clear, according to Cheikh Anta Diop, they are always black. And I think I showed that by picking the golden ages and sticking with them. Okay. The third way that we know is that you can actually find mummies and test the mummies for the amount of melanin content in the skin of the mummy. And Cheikh Anta Diop created the melanin test, did that test, and found that the mummies that he was able to test were in fact black people. And here's an example of Tutmosis I. Here's the example of...
there's another one.
Yes, here's the example. This is Tutmosis IV. You know, he's even darker than Tutmosis I. These mummies are black-skinned, and some people have argued that, well, they're only black-skinned because of the way they embalm them. But that's why Professor Cheikh Anta Diop was able to create a dosage test for melanin, because the melanin molecules remain firm over a long period of time. And he did that and showed that the mummies were indeed black, the ones that he tested. And if he had been able to test the others, we feel certain that the same thing would have been true. Okay. Then this is bone evidence. There is a rule by one of the old Egyptologists and paleontologists that said that the typical Kemetic type was short-armed and negrito, if you look at all the skeletal remains. Then the fifth...
we'll go to the next. I think we
can go to the next. This would be a slide of the... from the tomb of Ramesses III, showing the two black figures in there. One is Kemetic and the other is Nubian, showing that there's no difference between the Kamite and the Nubian, but the other two are Asian and kind of European. And there is a pictured difference in that tomb between the Asians and Europeans, but not between the Egyptians and the Nubians.
Okay.
Okay, the fifth way that we know is that you can still check blood type in the skins of mummies. And so what you're looking for, if they were black, you're looking for blood type B. If they were white, you would be looking for blood type A. That work, to the extent that has been done, according to Cheikh Diop, shows that the Egyptians, even today, are mostly B. And that there's no point where we ever had a predominant or even a significant A population in Kemet, as far as any evidence. Then after the blood group, the next category of proof has to do with the testimony of classical and Greek and Roman authors. So here's just a list of some of the people who saw the Kemites with their own eyes. Herodotus saw them in the 5th century BC. Aristotle saw them in the 4th century BC. Lucian saw them in the 2nd century BC. Strabo in the 1st, and Diodorus in the 1st century AD. All of them referred to the ancient Kemites as black people. So it would be not until, according to Bernal again, in his study of why some scholars seem to be saying something different. He said they changed the story at Göttingen University beginning around 1750 when Göttingen was founded. And you had a group of professors there who apparently wanted to rationalize German nationalism, so that they began to deny what the old Greeks and Romans had said, who were eyewitnesses, by the way, and these professors were not.
Okay.
Then the Kemetic people called themselves black people. And Cheikh Anta Diop, again, has gone through the proof of that through the analysis of certain Medu Neter hieroglyphic designations. In particular, the name Kemet, K-M-T, not just K-M. K-M is black, but when you add the T to it as a determinative, and when you add the key to it, Kemetu, and when you add the determinative, little man and little woman with 3 strokes under them, that's the plural. So that's man and woman plural. That means people. And Kemetu means the black people, not the black land. And that argument has been made in Cairo, by the way, at the symposium sponsored by UNESCO, where everybody was invited to talk about the color of the ancient Egyptian, or the race of the ancient Egyptian. Divine epithets, or names given to good gods and black gods, as Cheikh Anta Diop has shown, is that the good gods are always shown as black gods. The evil gods are always shown as red gods in different colors. So people generally tend to associate the color of their divinity with themselves. So that would be another piece of evidence. Any one of these by itself is not enough. But if you take them all collectively, then we have something that's very important. Divine epithets. So beneficial gods are shown as black ones. Hippopotamus Set is red, and so forth. Okay, the next piece of evidence would be from the Bible. Biblical evidence says that Kemetic people were black people, because according to the interpretation, Ham is the father of the black race, and Shem is the father of the mixed race, and Japhet is the father of the white race. And Ham's children then would be the black children, and that would be Cush, which is Ethiopia, Phut, which is Somaliland, Mizraim, which is Kemet, and Canaan, which is present-day Palestine. So all of those were black lands, according to your reading of the Bible. So that would be another piece of evidence. So number 10, then, is that the culture that I showed you was 3,000 years long of Kemet is very close to the culture of the rest of Africa. Not to Europe, not to Asia, but to the rest of Africa. For example, circumcision was present all up and down the Nile Valley even before 4000 BC. Then number 11, there's a linguistic unity. This is another aspect of culture. The language of ancient Kemet is closely tied to the language of the rest of Africa, especially to the languages in West Africa. And Cheikh Anta Diop was able to show that kinship between this and his own language. More recently, Greenberg's classification of language talks